It's not recording. Welcome back to Homeopathy at Home with Melissa. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to cut this part out. Because I'm a dummy. Okay. Okay, what's wrong with me? Get it together.
Those
There's gonna be bloopers. Okay. Welcome back to Homeopathy at Home with Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Bree.
Today we're going to be back in our Materia Medica Monday series with Kali Carb.
I like Kali Carb. You know what? Kali Carb is one of those that when the person is really sick, so person that gets really sick, and so therefore they don't have a lot of symptoms. And I've said this to people before, just said, sometimes you're so sick that you can't throw out symptoms. And people are so amazed by that. And
I
Kali
am
Carb is
amazed right now that you're saying that.
Yeah, Kali Carb is one of those that they tend to get really sick when they get sick, and they get into more pathology, but they tend not to throw out as many good symptoms, so it can be harder to determine a remedy. But we are about to give you a lot of good symptoms that you can look for. So when I say tend to, that's, that could be a piece of the puzzle, but a lot of times when people need Kali Carb, there's lots of symptoms that you can go by. So why don't you talk about the Kalis in general? What are the Kalis in general? What are the Kalis? What does that mean?
So the Kalis, I don't know if they're a class of remedies. Would you call them that? Or just they're types of remedies that there's Kali Phos is one, Kali Carb is one we're talking about today, Kali Iodatum. Yeah. Those are three off the top of my head. Kali Salt, yeah. Kali Mure.
Yep.
So there are many. And there are some similarities in all of them. And then Melissa will go into more detail about specifics to Kali Carb. But the Kalis in general, I love this analogy, like the cleaners at a theater. All the stars have been on, they did their thing, they get all the applause and all the attention. And then you have the little cleaners who come in behind them, maybe a little bit begrudgingly and fed up, much more stoic than the performers. So that's a great picture of the Kalis, because they will often come in after other remedies were indicated. So like you were saying before, maybe the symptoms we did see, and that remedy cleared up a lot of it. And then the Kalis come in and kind of finish the job,
Yeah.
Kalis are often indicated when acutes just don't clear up. And this is true for Kali Carb, particularly when there's leftover flu symptoms or things like that. They come in and mop up behind the illness. They can be hard to remember because they don't have a lot of distinguishing features. So they may not be a remedy you'll think of immediately, or maybe not the first remedies you think of for an illness. It's good to slot them in with remedies that they're close to. So Kali Carb follows arsenicum well. Sometimes after nat mure, sometimes sepia, carbo-veg, lycopodium. And that's not a rule. So we say that often. These are not hard rules, just something to consider. Maybe if you've used these remedies and they've done a lot of work, but you have some things left over, consider Kali Carb. You can think of Kali Carb and maybe some of the other Kalis as the January cold winter day remedy, unless you live in Florida, like me. Okay. Then don't, just ignore that. But picture it like a gray winter day. The birds aren't singing, there's no wind, just gray, boring. And you may notice that in the personality of the person if you're taking their case to some extent.
Yeah. There's something about So I love all 4 seasons of North Carolina. And there's something about that cold, dreary, yucky winter day. If I don't have to go anywhere, I love it. I love it. I turn the fireplace on,
Yep.
and if I don't have to go anywhere. Now, if I have to go somewhere, I'm really unhappy. I don't want to go out in the yucky weather. But that's the part of the winter. We don't get a lot of snow. So man, when it snows, I am in heaven. But yeah,
For that like one day a year. Maybe you get 2 or 3.
just keep my pajamas on all day, and yeah, I really do enjoy. I wouldn't want to do that for months at a time, but a few days here and there, yeah, I enjoy it. So, keynotes of Kali Carb. This can have back pain, especially during pregnancy. Interesting one.
That is good.
Swollen breast before menses, so maybe part of your menstrual, your PMS. A lot of hormonal stuff like Nat Muir, and they fear being alone, yet they don't like people. Man,
That's a good keynote. That's a weird combination.
It is a good one. Yep. So
So
you
would
asked,
this be a person who likes animals or something then, or they really want to be like near people but don't really want to interact?
okay, you know what I thought of? Possibly animals, but I think it could be the person that wants their spouse or friend or children in the house, just not near me. Just if I know somebody else is in the house with me, I'm good. I'm not alone. But don't be in the same room. Don't be in my space.
Yes, that makes sense.
Maybe that's it. So they do not like the cold weather because they're very chilly. They don't like drafts, and they put on a brave face and they carry on. So they'll do their routine stuff, and they just keep on going, and you just kind of never know anything's wrong because they put on that face. They go on doing jobs they don't really like, just because it pays the mortgage, so it pays the bills. So I'm just going to keep on doing this job that I don't like. And they're dutiful, which that shows up in that if you're going to keep a job that you don't like because it pays the bills, they really are dutiful. They, especially to their family, they worry about money, they fear poverty, and they need structure in their lives. So they can be quite routine. They love their routines. They're not exciting or imaginative. They're not passionate, not particularly passionate. And they make sure that the train runs on time. Man, I love talking about remedies. I always think of people.
I do too. I'm sitting here thinking of a couple. And I don't know if we were going to mention it in here. I don't want to like steal the thunder, but as you keep talking, I think of Eeyore, and I've heard that as Kali Carb before, as the Eeyore remedy.
Oh,
like Eeyore, from Pooh.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything's kind of boring, but I'm gonna be a good friend. He's always around, but he's never happy to be there.
That's true. Okay, so I almost thought of Eeyore, and then I thought, no, I think you're right. It could be. What was I thinking earlier? They put on a brave face.
Oh, were you thinking of another character?
No, I'm thinking of a person.
Mm.
And I wrote this person's name down, and I'm about to say, you need some Kali Carb.
Well, we're gonna get off here, and she's gonna be like, Bree, you need Kali Carb. No, I'm kidding. I'm not Kali Carb.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. Okay, so they make sure that train runs on time, but they
You're back. You just came back.
Okay. What's the last thing you heard me say?
You went back to saying they make sure the train runs on time, and then you
And then the next thing I saw in my notes is, yeah, totally Eeyore, that they make sure the train runs on time, but he won't necessarily enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, he does it because he has to. He has to keep the family going. And he says, do what you're told and don't, well, he or she is the person that does what they're told and don't think about it. So, you know, you think about a lot of people with the medical system, with their doctors, they just do what they are told and don't think about, they don't even think about asking questions.
Good point.
Yeah, so they obey the rules. Um, they're practical, family oriented. They stay in relationships even though they dislike their partner. They hold on to everything. So security, money, job, even though they don't like it.
Would this be maybe a person who has like ideas, but just this hold, I guess maybe the security of their current life? Well, I have these responsibilities. I need to make sure this gets done. I have things to take care of, and they just don't ever get around to pursuing any of those things they're interested in.
I don't, I don't, I don't know. And I want to say I don't think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but because they really are afraid of losing control. So people who are afraid of losing control and have all that anxiety, they don't want anything new, because
Yeah.
when you're doing new stuff, all right, think about me and all my ideas and all that, I'll just jump and do stuff. Like I just do stuff. I don't even, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about failing. I don't, if I fail, but we'll laugh about it,
That's
right?
okay.
Yeah. So, and you learn through your failures, but these people, no, they are so afraid to lose control. So I don't think they want to do anything new at all. And they get really angry, and irritable and speechless. So they can become very quarrelsome, talking to themselves, like subconscious muttering, and they can be resentful, grumpy. They are just not cheerful party goers. They don't want to go to the party. And eventually the Kali Carb, when they get to a certain age where they don't really care when they care a lot less what people think of them, they'll just say, no, I'm just not going. Like they don't even try to go and, sit there and be miserable. They're just not even going to go anymore. They just say, I'm just not going. So they have a really hard time recovering from acute ailments. And you said that earlier, I believe. So they worry about money, poverty, the future. They weep when telling about their sickness. So, as they're telling their symptoms, they might start crying and they say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel awful. Their emotions, here's a big one. Their emotions are felt in the pit of their stomach. Man. Yeah. So you might ask people where they feel it, that'd be good. What about the physical general symptoms? What are those, Bree?
All right. So there's a good amount of these too. Kali Carb can be worse between 2 and 4 a.m. And you had mentioned a backache. So particularly in the lower back, maybe even going down the right leg, like sciatica type pain. Kali Carb is also another great liver remedy. We're just touching on these liver remedies lately. They just keep coming up. Very close to like a podium. So it may follow it well. Pains in the back, again, maybe for gallbladder remedy. Aconite's another good one for that. But maybe if that one's not working, Kali Carb craves sweets, or might crave, I guess. Remember, you don't have to have all of these, but you might crave sweets. There might be a lot of flatulence and bloating. So again, this is where some of these are similar to like a podium. But the difference here is that lycopodium tends to be later in that, like 4 to 8 a.m., where Kali Carb, remember, is like 2 to 4 a.m. It's a big colic remedy when there's not digested food, maybe really bad pain, better if you bend forward. And there might be gas or diarrhea. You could maybe better with hot applications, so a heating pad or hot bath, similar to colosynthesis. This is maybe something to think of for menstrual pains, similar to colosynthesis, when you want to bend forward with that heat. They don't like tight clothing, probably because that bloating. Anytime you're really bloated, you don't really want tight clothes. Maybe think of Kali Carb after ailments from loss of fluids. So following, like we said earlier, following a flu or something, vomiting, diarrhea, maybe a really heavy period, one to consider. Very sensitive to drafts. And Kali Carb symptoms might jump around the body. So you might have like your elbow hurt, your other side, joint to joint, moving around. So sort of changeable, maybe like you would think of pulsatilla. Kali Carb is a really good respiratory remedy. This is actually the first thing I ever used Kali Carb for,
It's
and
the
maybe
most
what it's
common.
most commonly known for is when cold move to the chest often, and you might get bronchitis often. It's great for asthma. I think it's in the Banerjee protocol for asthma.
Yeah, it is.
And asthmatic people, like if you're better bending forward, I have seen that, which doesn't totally make sense. I don't have asthma. I'm not sure how that helps, like bending forward, but also good for warm applications. If there's fluid in the lungs, so pneumonia, it's a great pneumonia remedy. Sharp stitching pain. And I know in the beginning I mentioned it tends to follow other remedies, so I keep mentioning other remedies, but bryonia is similar pain. So bryonia may just not act as deeply. So if you've used bryonia for some of these things, it's specifically for lung things, there's pleurisy in here too for Kali Carb. You might think, so if you tried bryonia and that either wasn't working or it worked some, would you think then to move to Kali Carb?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You may have burning pain. Kali Carb can also be good for hormones. So for fluid or swelling, hormone imbalances, which, gosh, that's so common right now. Labor, like the sharp labor-like pains with periods that are extremely painful. Amenorrhea, so maybe your periods have completely stopped. Kali Carb is good for joints or arthritis or gout. And again, those flitting pains, the ones that kind of move around from joint to joint. A couple random little things. You may have swollen upper eyelids, think Kali Carb. Very sensitive soles of your feet. So you can't stand to walk outside or don't like your feet touched. Kali Carb people sweat easily on exertion, and maybe labor is delayed. So pregnant mamas, labor delayed due to a violent backache. So that could even be one to consider during labor, or maybe back labor.
Awesome. So this is why I love Materia Medica Mondays. This is the only time that I sit down and talk through a remedy like this. And like I said, thinking about people and writing down names. And then, I mean, really just, I honestly, what we're reading from is my notes from college. And all of the years, every time I learn something new about Kali Carb, I stick it in here, and so these are great reminders. This helps me in my practice. I'm thinking of so many young ladies right now that maybe we need to go with Kali Carb next, you know?
Yeah. I
Um,
was gonna ask, so it seems like Kali Carb is a good one to follow other remedies.
Yep.
Can you think of situations where you would open with Kali Carb, or would you just keep it in your mind and start somewhere else?
Asthma is my number one go-to is Kali Carb with asthma. So yeah, I would just go straight to Kali Carb with asthma. These menstrual things, these hormone things. I believe that I would not go with Kali Carb first. I wouldn't even think of Kali Carb first. So after we
What
tried
about
all the
that, after you try,
hormonal,
yeah, go ahead.
then I would go with Kali Carb after that.
Okay. And maybe finish up any leftover things? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, that'd be great. Gosh, that's such a great, analogy in the beginning with the lady, they
I
mop it
know
up.
that really, I feel like it's going to stick in my mind. Like I'm going to remember that. I hope I remember it.
We
But
will, because how many times since we've done these Materia Medica Mondays, when we're having the conversations after consults,
yeah,
we're both thinking of these remedies because we had this discussion.
yeah, it's true. I think too, the mental picture, I've just found myself using Cali Carb much more often for physical picture, but this has such a deep, big
Really
mental
is.
picture that would that be a case if there's somebody very obviously looks like this, you could just go ahead and start Cali Carb.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
great. This was so good. Thank you.
Thank you for talking through this with me. This is going to help me to just help the remedy to stick in my mind. So awesome. See you guys next time.